Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
This Day in Sports History. Hey, and welcome to This Day in Sports History. It's April 27th, and on this day in 1947, it was Babe Ruth Day at every major league ballpark. I've talked a lot about Babe Ruth in the 5 months I've been doing this podcast, and it's hard not to with all the records that he set and the impact he had on the game. The home runs, his time with the Red Sox, Yankees, and Braves, the contract that made him the richest athlete in the world and earned him more than the president did at the time. His personality was bigger than any athlete in the first half of the 20th century. And it's not too bold to say that the Babe saved baseball after the 1919 Black Sox scandal. But after he retired from baseball in 1935, he seemed to lose his way a little bit. Sure, the man who had a .342 career average could be seen from time to time cutting a ribbon to open some business. The guy who hit 714 career home runs on occasion handed a beauty queen her winner's sash and trophy. And the guy who also had 94 wins as a pitcher could still be seen in print ads for Red Rock Cola or Old Gold cigarettes, or maybe in a short film helping a kid with his math. The man who still holds the record for the longest recorded home run was always adored by the fans wherever he went, and he never lacked for a smile. But he seemed a bit lost after hanging up the spikes, and then he developed throat cancer. So, on this day, Major League Baseball paid tribute to Ruth and all that he had done for baseball, calling it Babe Ruth Day around the league. Prior to the game at Yankee Stadium, announcer Mel Allen introduced the man who really did not need an introduction. But it did give those gathered at Yankee Stadium that day a chance to shower him with applause and adulation once more. The 53-year-old Ruth walked to the microphone and, in a voice affected by cancer and the several surgeries that had been performed, said these words.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. You know how bad my voice sounds. Well, it feels just as bad. You know this baseball game of ours comes up from the youth. The only real game, I think, in the world, baseball. There's been so many lovely things said about me, and I'm glad that I've had the opportunity to thank everybody. Thank you.
He actually returned to Yankee Stadium in June the following year to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Yankee Stadium and have his jersey number retired. At that point, he was just a shell of the man he had once been, and he did not speak to the crowd. He died on August 16, 1948. Also on this day, in 1956, boxer Rocky Marciano retired. Marciano became the first and only fighter to retire from boxing as the undefeated heavyweight champ. Now, there have been other fighters in different weight classes who have retired with no losses, and James Jeffries retired undefeated in 1905, but then he unretired in an attempt to be the great white hope against Jack Johnson, but he lost. Gene Tunney retired with the heavyweight belt, but he had previous losses. Marciano was a fighter that never listened to the critics and naysayers. He was called too awkward, not fast enough, but what he could do was take a punch. Marciano was said to have a jaw of granite. He also had fists of steel, and he just punched his opponents into oblivion. He won the heavyweight title in 1952 after beating Jersey Joe Walcott, proceeded to defend the title 6 times. He won 43 of his 49 by knockout, and was only knocked to the mat twice in his career, once by Walcott and once by Archie Moore in his final title defense in September 1955. In 2009, it was the largest margin of defeat in an NBA playoff game. It was Game 4 of the first-round playoff series between the Denver Nuggets and the New Orleans Hornets. The Hornets came into the game feeling pretty good about themselves after a 2-point win in Game 3, and they were hopeful to even up the series with another win. They were actually favored to win in this one, but instead the Nuggets squashed any hopes of that idea. The Hornets trailed by 21 at the end of the first quarter, and it only got worse from there. They barely scored double digits in the third quarter, and when the Nuggets outscored them by 20 in the fourth, it was a 121-63 win for Denver, and the 58-point margin of victory set the record for the NBA playoffs. It also stands as the worst home court loss in any NBA game in history. Denver went on to win Game 5 as well and wrap up the series. And in 1983, 36-year-old Nolan Ryan struck out Montreal's Brad Mills for career strikeout 3509, passing Walter Johnson to become the all-time strikeouts leader in the major leagues. But instead of one of his patented Ryan Express fastballs, Nolan caught Mills looking with a breaking ball for a called third strike. So, a couple of interesting things here. In '83, Ryan and Phillies pitcher Steve Carlton were locked in a tight battle atop the all-time strikeouts list. And in fact, Carlton passed Ryan later in the year due to Ryan pitching every fifth day and Carlton every fourth day. But Ryan played for another 10 years and continued to rack up strikeouts. He finished his career with 5,714 strikeouts in his career, 1,500 more than Carlton. Also, in a bit of revisionist history, Johnson was actually credited with one more strikeout after Ryan passed him, but by then, it was a moot point. Time now for today's non-sports Did You Know? As a sports fan, you are certainly familiar with team mascots, and the word mascot comes from a French word that means lucky charm. That's all for now. Check back tomorrow for another edition of This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.